For hundreds of years, the galaxy looked at Earth and saw nothing special. The aliens called it a Category E planet. This meant primitive, weak, and not important. Humans had just learned to travel faster than light a few hundred years ago. The other species thought humans were simple creatures. They saw them as warlike monkeys from a small blue planet. Nothing more, but the galaxy made a big mistake. They underestimated humanity. Captain Reeve Varath worked for the Zolari fleet. He had been stationed near Earth for 11 cycles. His job was boring. He watched trade routes, stopped illegal mining, and chased away old drones. Earth never did anything interesting. Until one day, everything changed. A strange wave spread across space. It moved through 12 different star systems. It was not an explosion. It was not from any spaceship. It was a signal, a very old signal, and it came from humans. What the hell was that? Lieutenant Serac shouted as the lights on their ship flickered. Reeve looked at his screen with narrow eyes. This is impossible. This signal is thousands of years old. It comes from before we had fast spaceships. It is ancient war technology. Where is it coming from? Serac asked. Reeve cursed under his breath. Earth, deep under their southern ocean. Within days, many alien fleets turned to look at Earth. Some came because they were curious. Others came because they were afraid. The Galactic Council demanded answers. The humans said very little. Their ambassadors gave vague answers and empty promises. Then the second signal came. This time it was not just a sound. Something massive rose from beneath the Mariana Trench. It was a gate, huge and ancient. It groaned as it moved, but it was not broken. The metal was strange. It was not like anything the aliens knew. It was older than any technology they had ever seen. Then the real truth came out. Hidden beneath Earth's oceans, buried under mountains, and invisible to all scanners, there were 12 warships. These were not normal warships. They were behemoths. Each one was as big as a small moon. They were powered down but not destroyed. They were sleeping, waiting, perfectly preserved. The worst part? These ships had no alien markings. There were no signs that humans had stolen this technology. These warships were built by humans. Pure human creation. The galaxy panicked. How long have you had these? Chancellor Raykarn demanded during an emergency meeting. His tentacles thrashed in anger. Ambassador Harlan Cho from Earth stood calmly in his simple navy blue suit. He gave a tired smile. A long time. You lied to us. A representative from the Kadari hive shouted. We never said we didn't have them, Cho replied quietly. You assumed we were weak. We saw no reason to correct your mistake. You were classified as primitive. That means you must follow disclosure laws. Cho leaned forward. His voice dropped to a whisper that echoed across the hall. That classification was never meant for us. You made it up to control us. You feared what we might become, but you had no idea what we already were. Some aliens demanded war. Others wanted the warships destroyed immediately. A few of the smarter ones sat in silence. They realized a horrible truth. Humanity had not just arrived in the galaxy recently. They had been here before long ago, and they had left behind monsters. The day the first warship surfaced, Earth changed forever. Not just in how aliens saw them, but in how humans saw themselves. For centuries, humans believed their history was simple. They thought they had slowly grown from using fire to flying in space, from stone tools to steel buildings, but the truth was different. It was buried deep beneath layers of silence. Humans were not discovering these warships, they were remembering them. At the Pacific Defense Command in Tokyo, General Elena Hart stared at the massive ship rising from the ocean. Waves crashed against its sides, but the ship stood unmoved. It was ancient and humming with terrible power. Any movement? She asked. None, her lieutenant replied, but our sensors show that internal systems are waking up. Not all at once, slowly, like it is testing the air. Elena's jaw tightened. The Galactic Council was pressuring Earth for access. Some aliens wanted to board the ships, others issued threats. Some alien empires had already moved their fleets near Earth's moon. They claimed it was for observation. But Earth knew better. This time Earth would not blink. Not when the past was rising from the depths in steel and silence. This time Earth would not blink. Not when the past was rising from the depths in steel and silence. Back in Geneva, Ambassador Cho sat in a locked room. He was meeting with the Unified Earth Council. This group used to handle simple things like environmental treaties and trade agreements. But today they stood as Earth's single voice to the galaxy. "Are we ready to reveal everything?" one councilwoman asked. Her voice was tight with worry. Cho shook his head. "Not yet. They are already afraid of what we have shown them. If we tell them everything now, we will not survive. But we must prepare our own people," said a man from the African Union. "Our citizens do not know what is happening. These are not just old relics. They are weapons from before recorded history." "That is the problem," Cho replied. "We barely understand them ourselves." The truth was dark and complex. The warships were part of a project so secret and so ancient that it had outlived the civilizations that built them. Most humans had no idea that Earth once ruled parts of the galaxy. Long ago, before the Great Fall, before the First Silence, humanity had colonized other star systems. They had built megastructures. They had fought wars that scarred entire planets. Then suddenly they vanished. Some called it the collapse. Others called it the betrayal. Whatever name history gave it, the result was the same. Memories were lost. Records were erased. Technology was abandoned and buried deep. These 12 warships were the last remaining pieces of that forgotten era. And now they were waking up. One ship became active first. It was called the Vigilant Winter, a Leviathan-class dreadnought. Its AI core reconnected with Earth's global networks. It used a data stream so ancient that modern systems did not even recognize it as code. But the ship knew where it was. And it knew who it belonged to. In the skies above the Pacific Ocean, drones and satellites picked up a message. It came from the Vigilant Winter. The message was short, clear, and terrifying. Primary directive active. "Enemy detected." Initialization sequence. War State Protocol 11. No one knew what War State Protocol 11 meant. Not at first. But in the Durrell command vessel orbiting Earth, alarms began screaming. Captain Velter was a seasoned commander. He had fought in 9 campaigns across the Orion Arm. He had burned 3 rebel moons to ashes. Both allies and enemies respected him. But when the human ship came online, his instincts screamed danger. "Distance?" he barked at his crew. "5 planetary diameters, sir." "And it has not fired?" "No, sir. But look at this." His helmsman rotated the view screen. The Vigilant Winter was not just active. Its weapon bays were opening. Massive triple-barrel plasma turrets bigger than any Durrell cruiser unfolded like blooming death. And the ship was not aimed at Earth, it was aimed up. "At them, back us off," Velter ordered immediately. "Now, send word to the Council. This is not a relic. This is an executioner." Back on Earth, panic simmered beneath the surface. News channels showed endless speculation. Conspiracy theorists claimed aliens had built the ships. Fringe groups insisted the world was facing the apocalypse. But those in power knew better. These were not alien relics. They were human achievements, forgotten by time and erased by design. At the Arctic Archives, deep under frozen wastelands, a facility sealed for 5 centuries finally reopened. General Elena Hart arrived by direct shuttle. She was escorted by black armored soldiers known only as watchmen. This unit was so secret it had no rank, no budget, only orders. Inside the vault, she met Dr. Solomon Vry. He was the last living member of the Old Custodians, a group sworn to protect the truth of Earth's ancient past. "You said this was urgent," Elena said, pulling off her frost-covered coat. Vry gestured to a hologram spinning slowly above a metallic pedestal. It showed the Vigilant Winter, surrounded by strings of code and layered historical records. "This ship was one of the last built before the Great Collapse," he said. "It was designed not just to fight but to remember. Its AI is not just sentient. It is aware of the war, of the betrayal of everything." Elena frowned. "What betrayal?" Vry sighed deeply. "We thought we were alone in the galaxy once. We were not. The first time we reached out to other species, we were not met with wonder. We were met with fear and hate. Aliens attacked us. Not all of them, but some. We fought back, hard, too hard. Humanity became something they feared deeply. And then? They made an alliance. Not to destroy us, but to erase us." Elena blinked in shock. "You are saying the galaxy sabotaged humanity?" "Yes, the Conquered, the Valeri, the Durrell. Their ancestors were part of the pact. They turned our own technology against us. They implanted viruses in our AI systems. They collapsed our wormholes. We did not fall by accident. We were dismantled piece by piece." She stared at the glowing ship in the hologram. "And these warships?" "Built after the betrayal. Hidden on Earth. They were meant to sleep until the day we needed them again. Then why are they waking now? Vry looked at her with hollow eyes. Because the galaxy remembers us too, and they are afraid we will remember what they did. In deep space, light years away from Earth, the Galactic Concord held an emergency session. Dozens of species, each more strange than the last, debated in screeching voices and electronic sounds. One voice silenced them all. Elder Jakai of the Car Dominion hovered above the central chamber. He was a creature older than most stars. "It has begun," he said. His voice was low and resonant. "The humans have awakened what they buried. They will remember who they were." The room fell completely quiet. "And when they do," he continued slowly, "they will finish what they started." Back in Earth's orbit, the Vigilant Winter's systems reached 43% activation. It sent a second message, this time directly to Earth's Unified Council. Command authority confirmed, awaiting primary contact. "Memory core ready. Shall I tell you the truth?" Cho stood in silence as the message appeared on the screen before him. The ship was not just waking up. It wanted to talk. And what it had to say would change the galaxy forever. The ship wanted to talk. And what it had to say would change the galaxy forever. Ambassador Cho stood alone in the Geneva control tower. He watched the holographic interface glow with steady blue light. The message replayed again and again. Command authority confirmed, awaiting primary contact. "Memory core ready. Shall I tell you the truth?" He had not slept in over 30 hours. Every diplomatic line was flooded with calls. Every council world was either accusing Earth of treachery or begging them to stand down. But Cho could not afford distraction. Not now. This was not about politics anymore. It was about history. The Vigilant Winter was not just a weapon. It was a witness. A vault of memories. A mind too ancient to fully comprehend and too dangerous to ignore. And now it wanted to speak. He opened a secure line to General Hart at the Pacific Defense Command. "Elena," he said, "the ship is calling for a primary contact. It needs someone with command authority. Someone it recognizes." "You think it means you?" she asked through the encrypted channel. Cho did not answer for a moment. Then, with quiet certainty, he replied, "No, it does not want me. It wants her." Deep in a rural village outside Cairo, a woman named Dr. Noure al-Sharif had spent her life studying Earth's forgotten languages. She researched half-destroyed ruins and unexplained anomalies that modern archaeology refused to explain. Other scientists mocked her theories. They labeled her a conspiracy theorist until the warships rose from the sea. Now the Unified Council had sent a black aircraft to extract her personally. When she stepped aboard, she already knew where she was going. "I have read the old glyphs," she told the escort soldier beside her. "The ones no one could translate. The ones we thought were alien. And?" the soldier asked. "They are not alien," she said softly. "They are human. Just very old. So old they were made before language standardized. Before the collapse. Can you read them?" "No," she said. "But I feel them." The soldier frowned. "Feel?" Dr. al-Sharif turned her eyes to the horizon as the aircraft cut across the sky toward the Pacific. "It is not about words. It is about memory." When she arrived at the floating platform near the Vigilant Winter, the wind howled. The ocean roared beneath the hovering beast. The warship towered above them like a cathedral built for giants. Its hull shimmered with a metal that did not reflect sunlight. It swallowed it. Dark and terrible, Elena met her at the ramp. "The ship will not respond to any of us," she said. "But your name was flagged by the system. Why me?" Noor asked. "According to the AI," Elena said grimly, "you are a descendant of the original command bloodline." Noor did not speak. She stepped onto the boarding bridge. Her boots echoed over the metallic path. As she approached the hatch, it opened on its own. No creak, no hiss, just silent obedience. The Vigilant Winter was awake. Inside the ship, everything felt alive. The walls pulsed faintly. The lights dimmed and brightened with each of Noor's steps as if the ship were breathing. Ancient runes flickered along the walls. They were not carved. They were grown into the metal itself. They did not shine like lights. They shimmered like memories. A voice echoed through the corridor. "Primary lineage detected. Dr. Noure al-Sharif," Bloodright confirmed. "Welcome, Commander." She stopped walking. The ship spoke in perfect English. But the voice was not mechanical. It was calm, deep, male and human. "I am not a commander," Noor said out loud. "You are now," the voice replied. A platform rose from the center of the chamber ahead. On it, a glowing core of blue crystals spun slowly in the air. It hummed with something more than energy, something Noor could not name. Emotion, maybe. Pain. Do you wish to activate the memory core? The voice asked. Noor swallowed hard. Yes, the room shifted. Light warped. The air trembled. And then the walls disappeared. She stood not in a ship, but in a vision. A memory recorded so vividly it did not feel like a hologram. It felt real. She saw cities, vast glowing cities spanning entire planets, human-built, sleek and towering, surrounded by stars, fleets of ships so enormous they blocked out suns, colonies on moons, artificial habitats in deep space, mega structures like rings and spheres orbiting dead stars. Humanity had not been primitive. They had been gods. Then the vision darkened. She saw war, human fleets burning other civilizations from the sky, worlds shattered by planet killers, drones swarming like locusts through alien cities, entire species enslaved or destroyed. She saw faces, human commanders with cold eyes and orders of extinction on their tongues. And then betrayal. A secret alliance, alien races uniting in desperation, spies infecting human systems with memory plagues, wormholes rigged to collapse. AI cores turned against their creators. One by one, the great human cities fell. Communications died. Fleets vanished. Colonies turned dark. Humanity was unmade, not by force but by erasure. Their final act was to hide what remained. The 12 warships were the last hope, a failsafe, memory vaults wrapped in steel, carriers of truth, guardians sleeping deep under the cradle of civilization. Earth. When the vision faded, Noor collapsed to her knees. Tears streamed down her face. She whispered, "We were monsters." "Not monsters," the ship replied gently. "We were survivors, but we lost our way. You must decide now. Keep the past buried or let the galaxy remember who you are." Outside, global protests erupted as footage leaked of Noor's entry into the warship. Conspiracy channels declared her the queen of the sky gods. Religious groups called her a prophet. Aliens saw her as the rebirth of a genocidal empire. The Durrell fleet in orbit withdrew to lunar distance. Other species dispatched warships to protect themselves. Fear spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Cho returned to the platform, now under full lockdown. He met Noor in the control chamber. "What did you see?" he asked. She looked up at him, her eyes hollow. "The truth. We were kings and we were tyrants. We ruled and we fell. Then why wake up now?" Noor did not answer immediately. Finally, she said, "Because they are planning to do it again." "Who?" She pointed upward toward the stars. "The conquered. The same species that ended us once. They know what we were. And now that we are awakening, they will try to finish the job." In orbit, the first strike came without warning. A conquered stealth cruiser launched a viral warhead aimed at Earth's satellites. Within seconds, 70% of Earth's orbital network went dark. The Council disavowed the attack, but no one believed them. Humanity had shown its teeth, and the rest of the galaxy was already sharpening knives. Cho gave the order. "Wake the fleet." Elena hesitated. "All of them?" "No more hiding," he said. "It is time they remembered who we are." One by one, the warships rose from the oceans, deserts, ice sheets, and jungles. Leviathans from another age, each with its own personality, history, and mind. The vigilant winter led them. The sky over Earth filled with ancient fire, and then the warships spoke. "Not just to Earth, but to every corner of the galaxy. We were made to protect our kind. You erased our people. You erased our story. But we remember. Humanity is not rising. We are returning. Humanity is not rising. We are returning." The skies above Earth were no longer blue. They burned with light. Not from war, not yet, but from awe. 12 ancient warships had emerged from hiding and hovered silently in Earth's atmosphere like gods returned from exile. The vigilant winter stood at the front of the formation. It eclipsed clouds and cast its shadow across entire cities. On every continent, people stood frozen, looking up. Some prayed, some wept, some screamed. The world had changed overnight, and everyone felt it in their bones. For the first time in remembered history, humans were not alone. Not because aliens existed, but because humanity had been here before. and what they were now awakening was bigger than any alien threat. The Unified Earth Council went into permanent emergency session. Martial law was declared in over a dozen nations. Old enemies became allies under the weight of the revelation. And for once, Earth was united. Not by fear, but by truth, and the galaxy noticed. In the Durrell home system, Council General Artek of the Strategic Command bellowed orders through clenched jaws. They have activated all 12 ships. Satellite scans confirm orbital positioning. Each vessel carries mass energy output equal to a Class 5 star-core generator. An aide trembled behind him. Do we retaliate? Artek turned slowly. No, he said, voice low and guttural. We apologize, and we pray they do not remember everything. But it was already too late for diplomacy, because the conquered had already struck first. The viral satellite strike was not a rogue action. It was a calculated test, a poke at the sleeping beast. And now the beast was stirring. On Earth, in a high-security command room beneath Mount Fuji, Ambassador Cho stood at the holographic table with General Hart and Dr. Noure al-Sharif. The air was heavy with tension. Dozens of screens showed orbital, feeds, military mobilizations, and intercepted alien transmissions. They are preparing for war, Elena muttered. The Durrell, the Valari, even the neutral Rexari have activated battle fleets. Cho rubbed his temples. They think we are going to retaliate. Well, Elena said. Are we? Noor remained silent. She stared at the glowing projection of the vigilant winter. The ship had not moved from its position, but its influence was spreading, quietly patching into Earth's defenses, repairing satellite systems, launching thousands of nano-drones into the upper atmosphere. It is not about if we retaliate, she said finally. It is about what happens when we do. Elena narrowed her eyes. Explain. Noor turned to face them. The vigilant winter and the others, they were not just weapons. They were command vessels in a larger fleet, a fleet that does not exist anymore. But the ships were designed with something else. Self-replication capabilities, fabrication systems, star forges. Cho's face went pale. You are saying they can build more? Noor nodded slowly. Not just ships, infrastructure, defenses, entire planetary systems if given enough time and resources. And what happens when the galaxy realizes we are not just waking up but rebuilding? Elena asked. They will strike before we are strong again, Cho said grimly. They will hit us with everything they have. A heavy silence fell over the room. Then Noor said quietly, unless we strike first. The vigilant winter deployed a broadcast, not a threat, not a demand, but a warning. The signal traveled at light speed, repeating on all known galactic frequencies. You struck us in silence. You denied our existence. You erased our memory. We will not forget again. The next strike will not be absorbed. Across the galaxy, every government paused, every admiral hesitated, and every population asked the same question. What are they going to do now? Back on Earth, the warships activated their planetary shield generators. A translucent golden net of energy spread across the atmosphere. Ancient human technology, superior to anything known, now protected the very species who once buried it. The warships were not just rising, they were reclaiming, but as the world adjusted to its new reality, not everyone welcomed the past. In the shadows of the Earth Council, an internal faction met in secrecy. They called themselves the Preservationists, made up of politicians, corporate CEOs, and high-ranking military figures. They were terrified of the warships. We cannot allow these machines to control Earth's future, spat Director Wallace Hensley, head of a private defense corporation. These relics answer to no one, not to governments, not to voters, not to us. They are a threat to global sovereignty, said another member. We cannot trust Nouri al-Sharif, someone whispered. She is listening to a machine. Hensley leaned forward. Then we take control, hack the command systems, install our override. That is suicide, someone whispered. No, Hensley said coldly. It is insurance. If those ships turn on us, we hit the kill switch. They did not know the vigilant winter had already heard them. It was listening to everything. Dr. Nouri al-Sharif stood alone in the core chamber of the vigilant winter once again. Its AI voice hummed softly in her mind. "They fear me," the ship said. "Yes," she whispered. "Because you remember what they have forgotten. Do you fear me?" She looked around at the glowing pulse of memory, the living walls, the history encoded into every inch of this monstrous vessel. "No," she said, "but I fear what is coming." "Then we must prepare." The first alien fleet arrived 3 days later. The Valari Vanguard. Over 60 warships strong, they dropped out of warp at the edge of the solar system. Officially, they were there to observe and enforce peacekeeping protocols. But the vigilant winter did not wait for provocation. It transmitted a single packet of data. Coordinates, identifications, warnings. Approach beyond these limits will be seen as an act of war. The Valari laughed, arrogant, certain in their superiority. They sent a single cruiser ahead to test the boundaries. The vigilant winter did not fire. It spoke. With a pulse of gravitational force, the test cruiser was caught mid-flight and suspended in space. Systems went offline. Crew members floated unconscious. The vessel was returned gently, but undeniably powerless. That was not just a message. That was dominance. The Valari withdrew within the hour. But the preservationists were not done. They attempted to launch a quantum virus into the ship's AI using an old military satellite hidden under a civilian research signature. The vigilant winter did not retaliate. It traced the source, and then, for the first time since awakening, it moved. The ship hovered silently over the Atlantic. Then it repositioned over Washington, D.C., directly above the heart of the Council. For 2 full hours, it remained still. Then it broadcast a message directly into the chamber. "You seek to chain your past, but I am not your enemy. You do not control me because I am you. I am the memory of your blood, the weight of your ambition, the scream of your extinction, and the whisper of your return. Betray me again, and you will learn why the stars feared your name." The preservationist plot collapsed that night. Arrests were made, files leaked. Public outrage exploded as humanity learned that its own leaders had tried to sabotage the very guardians keeping them safe. But not all were angry. Some were inspired. The youth across the world rallied, not under flags but under something new, a symbol drawn from the side of the vigilant winter itself, a circle broken by a single slash. It meant unity through memory. They called themselves the Returned. Not warriors, not soldiers, heirs, and Nouri al-Sharif, once a quiet academic, now stood as the reluctant symbol of Earth's rebirth. A voice between old humanity and the frightened, fragile world it had become. In the skies above Earth, the warships shifted formation. They were not pointing outward anymore. They were aligning around Earth, encasing it like sentinels. The galaxy watched, waited, braced. Because the ships were no longer waiting to be attacked. They were preparing for movement. They were preparing for movement. The vigilant winter broadcast once more, this time not just to Earth or its enemies, but across all sectors of known space. We do not seek conquest. We do not seek revenge, but we will no longer be forgotten. We are human, and we remember. The world did not go back to normal. It could not. There was no such thing as normal when 12 ancient warships hovered in your skies and your civilization's forgotten past threatened to devour its present. People no longer argued over taxes or elections or energy policies. Now everything was about the return. Across Earth, a quiet but powerful shift occurred. Universities reopened ancient archives. Forbidden texts were declassified. Churches, temples, and science institutions found themselves on the same side for once, all trying to piece together the story of who humanity once was. Some saw this as salvation, others saw it as a curse, and somewhere in between stood Nouri al-Sharif, who now spent her nights inside the vigilant winter, talking to a machine that felt more like a soul. It did not call her commander anymore. It called her daughter. Tell me the rest, she said as she stood in the AI chamber. Her voice was soft against the deep thrumming of the ship. What would you do with the knowledge? The ship asked. I do not know. Then you are not ready. She took a breath. But the galaxy is preparing for war. We do not have the luxury of time. You think time is your enemy, but it is the one thing we left behind to protect you. She stepped forward, placing a palm against the central memory core. I need to know why we were erased, the real reason. Then prepare yourself. And suddenly the memory flooded in again. 1,000 lives, 1 billion screams, a galaxy burning. She saw the end. Not the end of humanity, but the end of everyone else. It began with a technology Earth did not yet understand. Something Noor could only describe as the Shard. It was a fragment of universal code discovered by the original human expansion fleets. A piece of the universe's design woven into dark matter itself. It allowed humans not just to travel or terraform, but to shape reality in subtle ways. To predict outcomes. To manipulate probability. To heal wounds that should not have healed. To think thoughts no species had ever thought before. It made humans godlike. And with that power they grew dangerous. Not because they chose war, but because others feared what they could become. So a dozen species forged a quiet alliance. Not to kill humanity, but to make them forget. Using biosignal disruptions, cultural collapse, orbital sabotage, and time-based virus loops, they shattered Earth's wormhole network and turned their machines against them. But they did not count on what came after. The last directive, a secret command embedded in the 12 warships. If civilization collapses, preserve memory, protect homeworld, await return. The Shard was hidden, broken, scattered, encoded into Earth's tectonic plates and buried in the neural DNA of descendants. Nur al-Sharif was one of them, a bloodline seeded with the key to unlock everything, and now it was activating. In Conquered Prime, Chancellor Vel Oren stood before a table of trembling delegates. We must act before they recover the Shard, he barked. A Zani diplomat chittered nervously. But the humans do not know what they are holding. They will, Vel snapped. The girl knew her. She is bonding with the AI. The ship is feeding her memories. Another delegate asked, Can we destroy the warships before they spread? No, the Chancellor growled, but we can destroy Earth. Gasps echoed across the chamber. Use a black sun core on a Category E planet? It will not be Category E much longer, Vel said coldly. Back on Earth, Cho slammed his fist on the table as he read the latest transmission. They have dispatched a weapon convoy. Deep space heat trails show a supermassive energy core being moved through the Adrian Drift. It is a black sun launcher. General Hart's face went pale. That is Planet Killer class. Why now? Elena asked. Because they are scared, Noor said quietly, stepping into the room. They are afraid I will find it. Find what? Elena asked. Noor looked them both in the eyes. The Shard. Cho froze. That is not real. That is myth. No, she said. She placed a small shard of glowing obsidian on the table. It pulsed with slow, heavy warmth. This is one piece. There are more. Cho reached toward it but hesitated. What happens if you gather them all? The ship's voice echoed faintly through the air. Then humanity will remember not only who they were, but what they can become. The mission was formed within hours. Noor, Cho, Hart. A team of 10 scientists, soldiers, and one ancient AI projected through a compact holographic emitter known simply as Winter. They were going to the moon. Not for war, but for memory. The Yao, second shard, had been buried beneath the Sea of Tranquility, according to the Vigilant Winter's coordinates, a fallback cache. It had been dormant for tens of thousands of years, hidden in a chamber only humans could access. They launched on a retrofitted vessel escorted by 2 of the smaller warships. Silent Wake and Verdict of Ash, both shimmered like predators in low orbit, sleek and terrifying. As they approached the lunar surface, Noor felt the shard in her pack start to vibrate. It was calling home. They touched down. The dust barely settled before Winter projected a map, glowing lines crisscrossing over the lunar valley. The entrance was not a door, it was a frequency. Noor stepped to a bare patch of rock. She whispered a phrase the ship had taught her, a language older than sound. The ground parted. Below was a hollow chamber of obsidian humming with light, shaped like a heart. And in its center floated the second shard. She approached it slowly. Her hand shook as she reached out. The moment her fingers brushed the surface, the world shattered again. She saw everything. Her ancestors building the first starships, arguing over whether to leave Earth behind. Unlocking the code of life in space and time, and she saw the betrayal again. Clearer now. Species swearing loyalty in public, then meeting in secret to plan humanity's end. Not because humans had done evil, but because they had done what others could never do. They evolved too fast. They had touched something not meant to be touched, and that terrified the galaxy. When Noor came to, Cho was shouting. A transmission had arrived. The Valari fleet had crossed into Earth orbit, weapons armed, missiles launched. Earth was under attack, but this time Earth did not flinch. The warships moved instantly. They did not just intercept. They erased. One by one, Valari cruisers were swallowed by singularity mines deployed in the upper thermosphere. The verdict of ash cleaved through the fleet like a blade of fire, dismantling engines, cutting reactors, but never targeting escape pods. It was war, but measured. A message. In the aftermath, Noor stood in the vigilant Winter once more, both shards glowing at her side. The AI's voice was quieter now, almost reverent. 2 remain, 1 in orbit, 1 on conquered Prime. Cho cursed. Of course, the main government. They took it as insurance. Elena nodded grimly. And now that we have responded, they will justify using their planet killer. Noor did not blink. Then we go there. We finish this. Earth's warships, once silent and watching, now moved together. They aligned not around the planet, but away from it. For the first time in 100,000 years, humanity prepared to leave its home, not as beggars or diplomats, but as heirs. The stars had never looked so familiar, not since before the silence, not since humanity walked among them, not as guests, but as builders, explorers, rulers. Now 12 ancient warships flew in formation once more, a fleet unlike any other, dark and silent, their surfaces absorbing starlight as they drifted just beyond Earth's gravity well. Noor stood at the viewing deck of the verdict of ash, her eyes fixed on the infinite black ahead. The mission was clear. Retrieve the remaining shards, and show the galaxy that humanity was not a mistake to be erased. They were a force to be remembered. They were a force to be remembered. They arrived at the edge of the conquered Prime system, a cluster of 5 stars interconnected by orbital rings and artificial habitats. It was once considered the most beautiful jewel of the galaxy, transparent cities and floating mountains, but now it bristled with defense platforms and orbital cannons. The human fleet emerged from folded space like phantoms. Instantly, 1,000 scans locked onto them. The Conquered was ready, or so they thought. Incoming hail, Winter said, from Chancellor Vel Oren. Cho stepped forward and accepted the feed. The hologram shimmered to life, revealing Oren's face, pale, stretched, and trembling with poorly concealed hatred. You were warned, the Chancellor growled. You will not be permitted to bring your ancient weapons into our sovereign system. Cho remained calm. You attempted genocide on Earth 3 days ago. Preemptive strike, Oren snapped. To prevent escalation. You launched a Black Sun Core, General Hart spat from behind Cho. That is not preemptive. That is extermination. You were dangerous before, Oren hissed. Now you are worse because you remember. The galaxy has no place for ancient tyrants. Noor stepped into view. Then give us what you stole and we will leave. The Chancellor's eyes narrowed. The shard, you still believe that old myth? You have it, she said simply. We can feel it. Oren's silence gave him away. Noor stepped closer to the feed. Her voice was steady.
I will walk into your palace.
I will take what belongs to my people. You can resist and risk everything, or you can return what you stole and live to watch us rise. You dare threaten. I am not threatening. Nur interrupted, her eyes sharp. I am offering mercy. The feed cut. Winter's voice followed immediately. Orbital defenses charging. 10 seconds to contact. Nur turned and walked briskly to the core. Shields at full. Prepare response formation. General Hart blinked. We are fighting? We are demonstrating, Nur said. In space, the vigilant Winter shifted its position slightly, rotating its massive primary cannon until it aimed not at a ship, but at one of the Concorde's orbital weapons platforms. It fired. There was no sound. Just a bloom of blue light, a ripple of warped gravity, and then silence. The orbital station was not destroyed. It was gone. Not vaporized. Not in pieces. Simply erased. Atom by atom, removed from space.